Hey everybody, this is Diane Brandon Moody. I am your favorite dating coach for people over 50. I help you navigate these tricky waters, which just aren't the same as when we were younger. For context, you can read about me in many places, but my website is dianebrandonmoody.com. My story is that I worked with some dating coaches when I was floundering a bit and learned a lot. And then in 2017, as I was ending my year by writing all the things that I liked and I didn't like and working on in my journal, I heard a voice say, um, the voice was very clear and it said, put in ad on Craigslist. I was like, what? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Do you know what's on Craigslist? And the voice was very insistent. It said, put an ad on Craigslist. And I said, oh, all right. So in 6 minutes, I wrote what I think is a delightful ad, and must have been because I got 300 responses to it overnight, some of which were what you would expect. Some of them were interesting. And then the very last one that I took a look at was somebody who eventually invited me to dinner, gave me a rose, and I married him 365 days later. I was 57 when we met, 58 when we got married. Now, here's the funny part. Before the voice told me to put an ad on Craigslist, the voice, which I swear to God sounded like somebody was sitting next to me on the couch, but nobody was there, the voice told me that I wanted to get engaged in 2018. And I said, are you kidding me? What? Are you sure I shouldn't just be dating somebody in 2018? And the voice said, nope, you want to be engaged. And I said, okay, well, that's a little weird. Are you sure I don't want to be married in 2018? The voice said, nope, you want to be engaged? I said, okay, fine. Well, September 8th, 2018, I was engaged. So those little weird voices, man, sometimes they are powerful. So this is all way of introduction to me. I'm part of a Facebook group for a lot of single people. It's, I don't know, 85,000 people or something in there. And I asked them for some suggestions on podcast episodes. I just wasn't coming up with anything new. And I got some really, really good suggestions. So I'm going to be doing some of those episodes in the upcoming days and weeks. So I think I'm picking out my first one because I think it's relevant. And that is that I think one of the things that singles do wrong in today's day and age and why romance takes so long to develop is because of this notion of a meet and greet. I understand why everybody does it. Nobody wants to waste their time if, you're not enjoying their company or, their picture was 20 years old and it wasn't anything that you wanted to be a part of with this person. I kind of get that. But the biggest problem with it is there is no actual way to build romance into a meet and greet. It is just not possible. I know some people are going to argue with me and they're going to not like that I said that. But I mean, the point of those things, at least it was for me, is I'd get looked up and down, see if I passed or failed. And it would be like half a cup of coffee. Sometimes he'd pay, sometimes he wouldn't. And there was there was no romance. There was like, I'm not interested in this. This is not. I mean, you have to work triple hard to get anybody interested in you because it's so transactional. So, what can we do instead? As told you, my husband and I reached out to him. I said a few lines in an email. He responded. a man of few words, so he didn't have some flowery, long email or anything like that. And then we kind of had a couple of emails back and forth. I don't remember how many. I probably still have them somewhere, but we did it back and forth a little bit. And then I eventually said, "Would you like to get coffee?" Not because I like coffee, but because, I mean, I love coffee, but a coffee date, I don't love the coffee date, but that's just what every guy was doing. And he responded back. He said, "I don't want to get coffee with you. I want to take you to dinner." And I was like, "Oh, that's actually very special. I love that idea." So he researched and he found a place close to my house that it was a Papa Do's. I don't know. Texas people would understand what that was. It was kind of a Cajun seafood place. He grew up on the Gulf Coast of Texas, so it's a food that he really likes. Um, yeah, I would call it somewhat casual, but a little higher end on the casual side. And he said, "Please get whatever you want." They have a salad that I adore, so I wasn't trying to be cheap or anything, but there was a salad that I just absolutely craved, so I got the salad. And we had a very enjoyable time. He met me at the front with reservations and one rose in a vase. Well, let me tell you, that was charming. I thought that was absolutely charming, and I think it went a long way in my wanting to have a second date with him. I think it just did. So I know that there's a couple of things that men in this scenario are going to want to argue about. And I will start off by saying one is it's very expensive these days. If men are doing a lot of dating, that's extremely expensive to take people to dinner. I get that, and I have a lot of empathy. I do. So if there is a way to be every bit as elegant and have the romance without spending the money, then I'm all for that. But I don't think you're going to get that in a Starbucks. I don't. I would suggest um, maybe dessert and coffee somewhere. You could also do a cocktail after work or on the weekends, a cocktail or two, or a cocktail and an appetizer. And then if there's interest, you could keep going. You could find other ways to make this a picnic. An elegant picnic wouldn't cost as much as probably dinner out, but you could get a decent bottle of wine, some cheese, some grapes, a charcuterie board, and to me, that would be a very elegant way of seeing if there's any interest from each other rather than just doing the old look up and down. So I have a lot of empathy for the price thing. The other thing that I would mention from a male perspective is I know there are a lot of men, and there's quite a few women these days, who believe that men shouldn't be the one paying for the date. If you have some absolute convictions in that area, then I think you need to stick with your convictions. I think it's a little less sexy, frankly. But, if those are your convictions, then by all means stick with them. But make it elegant in a way that is not just the look up and look down way. Now, people have different opinions on who pays for what. Some women say, if I ask him out, I'm expecting to pay. Okay, that's great. Um, Again, to me, not quite as sexy and romance filled, but you can make that your own. Um, Other people say, some women say, well, I don't want him to pay because I don't want him to think I owe him anything. You don't owe him anything regardless. And any decent man would tell you that. The ones who would insist that you owe him something in exchange for dinner are not the kind of people you want to be going with at all. So, yes, you can hand him a 50 on the way out or 100 or whatever it is. And then you don't have to owe him if he's being kind of a jackass about that particular comment. Grown-ups should have sex when they feel like they should have sex, but in general, and this is kind of a big um, it's a big generalization, but women will tend to be slower because we need to be careful of our safety. Yes, I know that there are women who harm men, not nearly in the same numbers, but a woman has to be very careful of her safety. So she isn't going to be as quick to go to bed as a man would. Um, and I reiterate, you don't owe him anything for dinner if except a good time and to say thank you. You absolutely need to express gratitude because it's an honor, ladies, to be asked out by a man to dinner. It's an honor. I think we get jaded too often in this day and age, and we act like, we're being put upon by going on a date with somebody who isn't a Disney prince. This is bullshit. Don't do it. Don't do it. If you're being asked out, don't go if you can't be gracious and say thank you and enjoy yourself in the best way that you can. Now, I would say if there is intentional bad blood, if you need to get up in the middle of the meal and leave because he's intentionally being an ass, I support that 100%. There's no place for racism. There's no place for sexism. There's no place for screaming at the server. There's no place for any kind of bad blood. And men, I'm talking to you too. If she's the one who behaves like that, or she tries to bring along her kid, or she's ordering for her whole family or some nonsense, you do not have to stick around for that at all. Not at all. So don't feel like you do. I just, I hate that some people make dating that difficult for people in this day and age. But let's just, get back to it. We want to be elegant and show our, be gracious. We want to get a little dressed up, don't we? I mean, ladies usually enjoy getting dressed up unless it's just a super casual place like Wings, which is not a bad thing to do if you're somebody who enjoys that kind of thing. It's a little messy, but it's fun. So, find what works in your budget. If you want to be gallant, oh my gosh, that goes so far in winning a woman over if that's what you're interested in doing. Being gallant, buying dinner. Like I said, make it in your budget if that's what you need to do. Go out less, go out with better people, be gallant, be gracious, dress up, have a great time. I think we just make it too hard on ourselves. We get so jaded. I did too. I absolutely did. I got very jaded and very annoyed by some of the dating behavior. I would be lying if I said otherwise. So, um, let's just try that as an experiment. If you're somebody who's always done the meet and greet because you thought you could get all the bad stuff over with and then you'd know and he'd spill his guts and tell you everything about him, I'm telling you, that does not make for romance. I use this example all the time. Let's pretend, ladies, that you and I happen to meet at a coffee shop ourselves. We're, excuse me, we don't know each other. We've never met, but you stand in line behind me and you say something funny, and I think that's hilarious. And we have a little small talk. And I go over to the table and I said, Would you like to join me? And you come over there, and all of a sudden you're like, well, my husband left me. I'm broke. I'm about to get fired. Um, I have psoriasis, and um, I'm worried about my mother. I'm worried about dying poor and being a street woman. If you lay all of that on me, I could be as empathetic as anything in the world, but it doesn't make me want to hang out with you more. And we need to think of that in terms of when we're meeting for a date, that, a little bit of mystery goes a long way. I had a good friend who told me that years and years ago. I asked him for some advice because and we were both so young at the time. We were just good friends. But I said, "What is it that's making, things are just not moving in the right direction and I don't get it. I'm not ugly, am I?" And he goes, "Of course you're not. You're a beautiful woman." And I said, "Okay, so what's the thing?" And he thought about it for a minute and he said, "Diane, there's no mystery with you. You tell me everything I need to know. There's no mystery for me to stick around and try to find out." That was the greatest gift because I realized that because I'm an outgoing person, I tend to just tell everything. No secrets with me. Well, not everybody wants to know all your secrets that fast. Let them find out a little bit. I realize this has come off a little bit rambly, but I'm trying to get some of these out before tomorrow. So thank you for being with me. This is 50 something love. This is the podcast for everybody trying to find love in their 50s and beyond. And I'm so delighted that you found me here. Now, let me make sure that you know I am a dating coach. I do help people find the love of their lives. And if you want to find me, go to dianebrandonmoody.com. Right there on my homepage, you can get my 50 places to meet people over 50 if you're really sick of dating apps and you're wanting to learn how to meet people in person again. That document is for you. And I will also say that my website is mostly geared toward women, but I do and have coached men. I'm happy to coach men. Most of my clients are women, but I am happy to also coach men. Thank you so much for being with me today. I hope you're enjoying your day, and I am looking forward to seeing you again next week on my next edition of 50 Something Love. Catch you later. Bye bye.